I'd love to start with my journey into cannabis and the journey of flower hire. I went to Cornell, played football. After college, I was expecting, a bunch of 80K sign-on bonuses, with 80K offers with sign-on bonuses, which did not happen. So I moved back to LA, ended up starting off entry level in the staffing business. Phone on the shoulder, 2004, $11 an hour, cold calling, and obviously no one grows up to be a recruiter. But I ended up sticking with that entry-level job for 13 years. I worked in Los Angeles, helped open up operations in San Francisco, San Jose, Orange County, Chicago, Boston, Toronto. And after 2009, when the world didn't end, basically every company in the world needed to be a tech company. So I feel very fortunate to have gotten into tech when I did. I was able to, support a family, and I was actually found myself living in Chicago between 2013 and 2017, where my wife's from. And I got to the point where I was just getting bored. I was spinning around the career ladder. I was able to have a nice living, but there's something soulless about placing software engineers, to be honest. And I ended up, cannabis found me, and I answered the call. In 2016, I had a couple folks that I worked for way back at the beginning of my career out in Los Angeles that pivoted into cannabis. One happened to be the CRO of a company called Ease, which did $150 million of legal cannabis deliveries in California last year. And the other one was starting a vertically integrated cannabis company called Elite California. There we go. There it is. And I went out, I flew out and met with them immediately. And they're like, Dave, you got to figure out how to get involved in this. We're built for this industry, and I'm not sure what you would do, but now is the time to get into it. So I actually flew back home. My wife saw it in my eyes, and I left the old world behind. I left a world with a good paycheck, nice suburban life for the kids, grandma and grandpa down the street. And what anchored me in early 2017 was I had the chance to work on Retainer for Ease as they're going through a hypergrowth phase following their Series B. So this was at a time in 2017 when the notion of a job in cannabis outside of a trimmer or a bud tender was far-fetched, right? And I didn't even think I was moving to California to start a staffing business, because I didn't think it was possible. I was actually kind of excited to change lanes and do something different, to be honest with you. But that ended up being a great opportunity because, I helped Ease fill out the early executive team, finance, marketing, operations, technology, sales, and probably the most robust recruitment funnel into the industry. And, I started figuring out what was a good hire for this industry. And it wasn't about, people that were just looking for a change. What it really discovered is about people that felt it was their calling. The extremely sober people, a CFO that talked about the story of how his son used it and got off of, opioids, and the software engineer story about his dad, so it wasn't just about you getting high or whatever. It was about people that wanted to build something and be part of something they believed in, because they felt like the rest of the industries didn't offer that. And at the same time I was doing that, I was helping Elite operationally, move the needle. And building a cannabis company in California is not easy. Compliance, licensing, financing, marketing, lobbying, politicians. And, I ended up, as I was doing that, and I was working on Retainer for Ease, I was just doing what I do, being interested, being interesting, talking to cannabis CEOs that I would meet. And they'd basically tell me, how hard their job was. And overall, there was probably the most interesting, intelligent, hardworking group of people I'd ever come across in the working world. And they were telling me what they needed. They were telling me they want to make the world a better place through their company and through their products. And they needed capital, and then they needed to hire people from outside of cannabis. And I thought to myself, light bulb moment, I'm not sure if there's an ability to earn money for doing recruiting on a broad scale in cannabis, but if there is, this industry needs my help to get the right people into it, to make it succeed, because the odds are stacked against it in the regulatory quicksand that exists in it. So, and for the first, 7 or 8, so in 2017, I was flying back and forth between Chicago and LA and Chicago and San Francisco. I left the old world right after the birth of my 4th child. True story. So, a lot of haters out there judging what I was doing, let's just say. And I ended up, for the first 7 or 8 months that I was doing it in 2017, I was actually incubated in the corporate office of Elite California. So I got to see firsthand the challenges of building in this industry. And I think it gave me a really unique perspective, because I was the only staffing company in cannabis born out of a cannabis company, right? So fast forward, 2018. This is a list of some of our clients that we had the chance to work with. I ended up moving the family out like Christmas 2017, and landed in California for January 1. Super excited about the legal market. And then California messed up licensing. They messed up everything they possibly could have to launch the legal market. And so there was no one making money. There was no product to sell. There was no stores that were open. There was no distribution licenses. Not only that, a man named Jeff Sessions on January 3rd rained on California's parade and said, "I'm not going to listen to the Cole memo." So all that money that all these cannabis executives were talking about coming into the industry just dried up. It was not there. And I had just relocated, a family to LA, and watched my kids cry when they left grandma and grandpa, right? So I took a deep breath. I had worked in the staffing industry through 2009, so I'd seen not the same, but similar. And for the next 2 to 3 months, I just focused on relationship building, meeting folks, talking to high-end candidates with impressive backgrounds who are interested in the industry. And then Q2 of last year, things just started coming alive from an investment standpoint. And finally, California got some traction going and momentum. And I think in the investor community, the fear of losing out on the investment because the federal government's seizing assets, the fear of missing out on opportunities started to get bigger. So it just started coming into the industry, right? And by the end of Q2, any company in California that actually had licensing enough to get compliant product on the shelf started to be able to raise capital at valuations like 15 to 20 times earnings with a 23-year-old CEO, right, running it. And it just accelerated through the rest of the year. Q3, I think I really saw, starting in Q3, we started getting inbound requests to start doing executive search outside of California, which was amazing. I started seeing who was actually investing in these companies, and it was people from this city, the private equity, the VC world that you would never think were investing in cannabis. They definitely don't advertise that they are at all, but they were there, and it was an acceleration through the end of the year that was just amazing. And it's coming to New York. So one thing I could say is if you want to work in this industry, give it some time, but it's definitely coming, and there will be enough to go around for people that want to get involved with it. So just a couple points. So one of these companies up here, Cura Cannabis Solutions, it's not Cura Leaf, it's a different company. It's based in Portland. They just actually filed to list in the Canadian Stock Exchange sometime this year. That company has a brand called Select. Select sold $100 million worth of vape cartridges in California last year alone. Their number one selling brand in Oregon and Arizona as well. That company, who knows what the valuation on that will be considering what their revenue is, right? Cannabis is also just, the stories of like who's behind the companies and like how it all has come together. The facts seem so random. This week, actually on Tuesday, I met a man named Mike Tyson. True story, the champ. And I got to watch Ultimate Fighting with Mike Tyson for 10 minutes and just comment on the freaking punches that people were taking. But Mike Tyson's company turns more industrial hemp into CBD isolate than anyone in the country. Who would have fucking thought that, right? Mike Tyson. So in terms of the type of roles that we've focused on, I think the biggest and the earliest widespread need was accounting and finance. So all you CPAs in the room, if there are any, the industry needs you, right? Oh, back there, we got one. We got one. So basically, you think about it. You know, who was handling the cash historically? You know, it was the CEO or their closest confidant. Well, now you have taxation. You have a highly scrutinized, regulated industry, and you have capital out there coming into the space. So at first it was the accounting layer, and then by Q3 it was finance. You know, it was people that could talk to banks and institutional capital, right? The second most common thing that we've come across is like executive level operators. Like, I'll get more of this in a second, but a lot of the money that's coming into the space is not investing in any profits right now. There's very few companies, even that Cura company, making profits, right? It's about who is the team, and so the finding the right DNA in an executive operator from a management or marketing or operations vein who's the right fit for cannabis is a challenge. You know, the people who are used to coming out of the big companies, they usually have teams of people doing all their bidding. You know, and in this one, you have to get in there and do it yourself, right? So that's been, you know, the second most common. And third is probably operations, you know, supply chain, distribution, facilities management, and then even human resources and marketing and legal. You know, those are the most common roles we come across. And obviously there's been people working in the cannabis industry for a long time. I mean, this isn't it's a new legal industry, but it's far from a new industry, right? Delivery of cannabis in New York is not new, right? I know. But at the end of the day, where are the people that have been involved in this industry the whole time, right? So obviously cultivation, manufacturing, that's an easy, you know, thing, bridge the gap. But you can't use LinkedIn to cold call a buyer at a dispensary. So the people that are involved in cannabis have the relationships and are running sales teams, you know, and are running procurement to find bulk thing. That's where a lot of the people that have been in the industry the whole time are finding their place in the legal market. So this is something from my new website. Basically, I'll get more into what this is in a second, but I look at what is a good hire for this industry. There's three parts to that. One is a capitalist, one is a startup person, and the other one is a love for the plant, right? Now, capitalist, the beginnings of a $200 billion global industry that could affect more people in a positive way than anything in the history, right? Startup, yeah, there we go, fired up. The startup, every company in this industry, no matter how big they are, is a startup. And they have to be a startup because they're building in regulatory quicksand, right? So there's a lack of structure and systems and processes. So, you know, not everyone needs to have gone through a startup, but you got to understand that in this one, it's like you're building scale. You know, the thing is escalating rapidly, and not everyone wants to live the startup lifestyle of answering the bat phone 24/7 when a fire is there to be put out, right? And then obviously a love for the plant. I think being a user is a good thing, right? But it's about like believing in the plant, right? Because at the end of the day, even the companies making a lot of money in this space, there's a culture of this mission, this purpose-driven entity. So to fit in culturally, you have to have that. And to be honest, the most common thing that clients look for me when they're looking for executives, like, I want someone out of Diageo or Coca-Cola. And I'm like, that person's probably really good, but they're not right if they've never been through a startup, you know, and if they don't have any relationship with the plant, right? So I actually think the right, you know, pedigree or career profile is somebody maybe big company who's been through a startup that's gone through a scaling or growth phase. Maybe they've been an entrepreneur themselves or been a consultant, because at least you have more tools in your belt than just going the big company route. And you need a lot of tools in your belt because this industry's problems are immense in order to build scale and infrastructure. So, so I crowdsourced from my clients, you know, some ideas of, you know, if someone wants to work in this industry, what should they be aware of? And you know, so that's what's on this quiz. And like a couple examples of it. I'm okay working on a problem that may not have a solution, right? That's one. You know, I'm okay with a fire to be put out, wrecking my entire calendar almost every single day. You know, so check that out. Social equity, you know, the cannabis industry has so much promise to affect communities in a positive way that have been, you know, ravaged by the drug war. I will say California has fallen short so far in the promise of that. There's a lot of good people like trying to do amazing work, You know, you hear from Christine in a second, and the model of what they're doing is phenomenal. You know, it's super impressive, right? But often, you know, cities that have the highest social equity requirements comes with the highest tax rates. So it pushes business operators to cities that are like, bring the cannabis jobs here, you know? And then what happened when the, you know, big money showed up is that they're investing in the type of people that they're used to investing with. And these days, because no one's making profit really in this industry, you almost need a war chest in California to survive, right? So, you know, I think that, you know, again, to all fairness, there have been a lot of challenges to even operating in the legal industry. What I'm trying to do with Flower Hire now that, you know, I can more consistently put food on the table for my kids is in Q2 I'm launching a program to help retrain veterans in cannabis jobs. Yeah. Elite, thank you. Elite California has a lab in a beautiful hamlet called King City, California. It's in wine country, but they never grew grapes, so they're warmly embracing the cannabis industry. And you know, we can help people figure out jobs in a lab, you know, where they're doing extraction and packaging and other things. The other ones, I have a client that has a whole bunch of grow operations around LA, true story, THC Design, that wants to deploy people to understand curing and trimming and packaging. So I plan on trying to be part of the solution for the social equity puzzle. What's coming from New York, New Jersey? I mean, everyone here is in New York. So I think if California is a lesson at all, chaos. Absolute chaos. Seriously, lack of supply, lack of licensing, the persistence of the black market. I mean, I have a, you know, Rob, who actually just started boots on the ground for us in Boston, is back there, and there's only 5 licensed adult use dispensaries in the whole state of Massachusetts right now, and the lines are around the block and out the door in winter. Like it's crazy, and to a point, California and New York are just different. California's had a thriving medical market for years. New York hasn't, right? So it's going to take a lot of time to normalize. I do think Cuomo wants to beat New Jersey and make it legal here first, right? Yeah, but good for him, man. Let's make it happen, right? But there are some, you know, things. There's some businesses here that are already, you know, doing stuff. LeafLink is a software company that is doing really well in the cannabis industry as a marketplace, you know, helping brands sell into dispensaries and making sure they all get paid. Puffco is here. Fine dab rigs, Puffco. And obviously you have the Navy Capitals and the acreage that are here. So and the good thing about New York, once it does happen, this will be the largest legal cannabis city in the world, right? The market here is immense, right? Yeah, yeah. There we go. So, and ultimately, you know, what's gonna happen is the talent is here, the money is here. It'll just take probably a year or two, and then you'll start seeing those 100 to 200 person entities that are structured like a CPG company, that are structured like a distribution company, that actually have the different lanes you would find in a traditional hierarchy, right? It's just gonna take time, right? And obviously, the goal of Flower Hire and having Andrew here is to help be that gateway when those jobs continue to come here, you know. And we've worked a few roles here on the East Coast and are seeing more and more coming. So, chaos. So how to get a job in the industry? So obviously, the first thing, you know, this is coming from a recruiter who's worked in staffing for a long time, is job boards do not work, right? What I'd like you to do is look at someone next to you who you don't know and just introduce yourself really quickly. Let's start there. Your name and what you do. Just do it. Just introduce yourself. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. There it is. People helping people. Powerful. So my point on that is talk to people that want to be in this industry. Get to know them. Get to know their story. Follow the licenses of when they go to the events. You know, meet with people that want to be part of this industry. Go to the trade shows, right? Go to the after parties, right? And realize the jobs are definitely coming. You know, it's just going to take some time. Thank you.